Welcome back to Les Schwab Tire Center's Outdoor GPS. Now it's real time, sponsored by the Mill Casino.
Welcome back, everyone. We're going to be joined by Mr. Big Dave Manners. Big Dave, it's great to hear from you this morning, man. We appreciate you spending some time with us. First question, though, how's the family, man?
We're doing great. We're doing great. Had a good Christmas, and I had a late night last night. We had our addicted Christmas party up in Washington. So
nice.
I got home kind of late and saw all the guys, and yeah, but it's been a good holiday season so far.
Very good, man. I'm glad to hear that. I hope everybody over at Addicted is doing good. Well, it was a perfect time to talk with you because the rivers are exploded, and nobody knows that better along the coast than you. As a professional guide, of course, everyone, if you're unaware of what Dave does. But how have you seen things change here in the last week or so, and kind of what do you think is going to happen here as the rivers do start to change? We do have more rain coming, but they're forecasting the rivers along the coast to kind of go down. What are you expecting to have happen?
Yeah, you know, we definitely have had a lot of big water this year. I'm hoping it's not going to be, you know, like last year where we didn't really get a fish a whole lot of days in January where we had a lot of high water. But you know, these warmer temperatures we're having, I think that has a little bit to do with it too. But yeah, we've had a lot of big water. Looks like it's going to come in here for a few days though, and I do think fishing will be good up and down the coast if you're in a spot that, you know, that you've got some clarity and you can fish. Maybe some of the smaller trips might be better. But yeah, I predict that you'll see some fish caught here in the next few days when this water drops in. But then I don't know. It looks like it's going to come back up again a little bit. But I think we're getting into that time of the year where, yeah, you know, we'll start getting some days in down here.
Well, I think you kind of, I mean, that's really the biggest question for if folks are drift boaters, no matter what system they're in, or if they're hikers and they're coming in bait fishing, you know, the systems are still going to be relatively high this week when things start to settle down. But it falls down to clarity. Any advice that you could share with some of those folks that do make it out there? Because the water, you're not going to expect to see gin clear water. It's going to be off color in most cases. Like Dave mentioned, the river, some of the smaller systems will drop and clear quicker. But when they do get out there, how would you break that down with your clients in those conditions?
You know, pretty much we're going to be looking for the soft, you know, the soft water when, you know, when your water's big and it's colored and dirty. We're going to be looking for those soft seams into the very back of the tail outs. But, you know, I catch a lot of these fish when it's big like this in literally a couple feet of water. So you can't be afraid to fish in the super soft stuff. They're not going to be out in the big water where you're used to fishing salmon. You know, we just all came off salmon fishing and fishing those deep holes, which when you start out right now, you're going to want to stay away from that. As far as gear goes, I'll probably be running a lot of beads, a lot of big beads in this early season in this big water. Probably pair some with some bait too, run some bait, but the big presentation on your big beads, you know, your solid color beads, your creamsicles, things like that. The sweet cherry are one of my favorites. But yeah, bigger beads are what I'm going to be using when this thing starts off here.
What would your advice be in those conditions? If somebody's from the bank or again from a boat or raft, whatever it is, would you camp out in an area and just work it over and let those fish kind of come to you? Or would you still be covering a ton of ground on the river, just floating your way out? I mean, how would you kind of break that down? Are you going to spend time in one area, or are you going to just keep moving?
Yeah, you know, there's certain spots where I definitely will spend a lot of time from, and you know, if you're a bank fisherman as well, one thing you're going to want to look for are feeder creeks. Now, that's one thing that'll happen is a lot of these feeder creeks that, you know, are dumping into the river that you're fishing are going to clear up before the river is. The mouths of those creeks, they're usually always good spots to catch fish, and they'll clear up faster than, you know, the main stem of the river. So that's one thing to really look for. And then also choke points. When you're coming, you know, you're going down the river and you see there's a soft side, like, you know, one side of the river might be the high bank side where it's really cooking, big, boily. And on the inside, you know, if you've got a nice little traveling lane that they're going through, then those are also spots from a boat or bank fishing that you can just, you know, sit there and spend some time waiting for those fish to come through. That's also something you'll have to kind of figure it out while you're out there, if the fish are moving or if they're holding up. You know, if we're getting a rise on top of already a big river, they might not move as much. They might just be sitting more in the soft stuff and just hanging out. Where if it's big but it's still dropping, then that's when you're going to see them traveling more, and that's where being in those choke points or the mouths of those feeder creeks can be really good.
Now, you mentioned to break it down as far as gear goes, you'd be float fishing, bobber dogging with beads, maybe a little bit of bait. You mentioned large beads. Now, there's B&R and some of the other folks out there getting nuts, dude. I mean, 22, 24, 26 mil beads. What do you kind of neck that down to?
I'm not going past the 20 so much. I mean, 20 mils are great for me. I think they're big enough. I think when you get a little bit bigger on those beads, you're probably going to lose some more fish. I probably land more on, even smaller beads, 12, 16s. But yeah, in this big water, 20 is going to be probably the main number I'm going to stick at.
Running along that same line, we've seen you in a number of different sources. If it's with the guys from Addicted, if it's on Angler West, or if just you and your buddy out there chasing fish around, Mr. Popoff, fishing jigs. Is that a time that you would avoid jig fishing in that higher, maybe not mud, of course, but off-color conditions? Would you upsize that to a 1/4 ounce? Would you just stay away from them? I know that the presentation with the float is an advantage, of course, in those conditions, but is that something that you would still consider?
Yeah, definitely. Whenever I approach a hole, I'm going to fish it usually with the bead first, but then before I leave, I'm always going to try some other tactics, whether that's casting a spoon out there, running plugs through it, and yes, big worms. I mean, a full length pink worm is good in dirty water, and some kind of water that they may be sitting in that's so slow and so soft that a jig might be the only thing you can really fish on them, and get a good presentation if you don't have enough flow. So yeah, I definitely would still go through my arsenal. But yeah, my number one thing will be beads, but then I'm going to follow that up with trying a few tactics before I leave the hole.
Okay, that's good advice, because a lot of us get stuck on doing one thing, and it makes sense to kind of change it up a little bit, especially if you have that opportunity. Steelhead aren't known for being so scent oriented. There's no question a fish is a fish. They've got great noses. Is that a time where you might make sure or be more on it, I guess, to make sure that you've got some scent out there to help those fish find your baits?
Yeah, definitely. They'll definitely bite it without scent, but I definitely have seen it make a difference, especially in dirty water, putting scent on your beads. I know it does make them slide a little bit more, but I like to try to just put it on the outside of the bead. Don't get it through your line where your line's going through, and just maybe send it a little bit more often. Maybe every 3rd or 4th drift, give it a little dab on there. But I have noticed, yeah, where sometimes they'll lock into a scent, and it'll work. They'll start biting it.
Well, there's no question that these are conditions that if you're a rookie, if it's something that you haven't done before, if you haven't spent much time hiking in or bank fishing or floating, whatever it might be, that this might not be the best time for a rookie or somebody new at it to do it. So it's a good opportunity for folks to maybe get out with a guide like yourself or Nick or some of the others that are up and down the coast. What is your availability like going forward? Are you booked up solid? Or are all these days that you have to take off because of the conditions just kind of condensing all the folks that you already have?
Yeah, it's starting to, but give us a call. We've got a few other guys that work for us too here. We can probably get you out. Might have a few days left in there. Nick and I are both getting pretty full, but give us a call and we might be able to get you out.
All right. Well, Dave, listen, I know that our time is always too fast, and I just wanted to get some ideas of what you were thinking is going to happen. Obviously, the coast, no matter if it's on the most northern location or most southern location, everybody's going to be chasing steelhead going forward for obvious reasons, man. 2024 is over. We're stepping into 25. It's January. Would you call January the beginning of the real season?
Yes, definitely. I mean, we'll catch a few fish around, in December, and there's been some reports, and I've, talked to a few guys up and down the coast that have had some decent days, but also a lot of slow days or maybe even no fish. I've been out a few times, did well a couple times, not so well a couple times. So, yes, I would say January is the true kickoff for us down here when you've got better odds of catching a fish when you go out. I mean, Nick and I really don't, we start with our clients right after the first of the year. So we kind of let them get in there a little bit and get a little bit more guaranteed you're going to have fish in there.
A good point. Hey, Dave, as always, man, thank you. Say hi to the family for us. We appreciate you spending some time on this Sunday morning, and Happy New Year to you and your family, okay?
Happy New Year's, guys. Have a good one.
Take care, Dave. We appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
That's Big Dave Manners. He's the owner of Big Dave's Guide Service. And if you ever wanted to stay at my favorite place along the coast, Wilson River Lodge. All right, we're going to cut to a break. When we come back, we're going to have our Chevy Silverado Tech Tip of the Week. And it's a viewer question, okay, on our Facebook page, and it's something that it's a perfect opportunity to talk a little bit about somebody being new in a jet sled. We'll be back with that in a couple of minutes.
Outdoor GPS is brought to you by Chevy Silverado and the impressive Turbo Max engine. Flex your muscle with the strongest, most advanced Silverado ever. Official truck of Outdoor GPS.